And my next guest, Rachele Spaletta, is going to be joining us from Intercoastal Wine Company. And her logo or her slogan is embrace every moment. And she kind of lives that way. And I want to welcome her to the show right now. Rachele, how are you doing? Rachele, sorry, I keep calling you Rachele. How are you today?
It's okay. It's honestly, it's a toss-up. It's 50-50. Rachele,
okay.
Rachele.
Okay,
I
Rachele.
answer the most. It's Rachele.
Okay. How are you today?
How are you?
Good.
I'm great. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate being invited.
Well, I mean, I've been looking forward to having you on the show. A good friend of mine met with you and your husband recently at an event and mentioned your wines, and I'm actually looking forward. Usually we're drinking wine on the show. We just actually are enjoying a Meritage from Mendocino, but we typically are enjoying a wine from our guests, but we'll get to you and get some of your wine later. Maybe get you in the studio or something like that.
Yeah, I would love that. I was a toss-up for me between drinking my Albarino at my desk, speaking with you, and a walk in the vineyard with my dogs as I spoke with you. So I chose the Albarino.
Nice.
Got a little glass right here while we talk.
Well, good. So. Well, you know, a lot of our show, Rachele, is about sort of, we do talk about food, wine, travel, and lifestyle, obviously, but the underlying theme of it is a bit about entrepreneurism and sort of following your dream. And there's always a great story behind everyone's, journey and the passion that leads you to doing what you do. Now, I understand that you spent about 22 years in technology sales, and one day you just sort of said, nah, I think I'm done. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, that's correct. I worked actually for Ricoh Corporation for 22 and a half years, and so it was a great career. I really enjoyed, first and foremost, my customers. And it was a really tough choice to make to leave a career that I knew so well, and I really did enjoy it. But at the end of the day, it was just really punching the clock and kind of going in, and it certainly paid the bills, but it didn't really fulfill me personally.
Right.
And I was always in pursuit of what would fulfill me. My husband would always ask me, what is your passion? His passion has always been farming. He's a second generation farmer, and every day he loves what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would always just kind of search for, what is it? What is it that I really, really want to do? So I was happy when, we made the choice to start bottling our wine. We're wine grape growers. So, it kind of was the likely step, but.
Well, I understand Mitch had kind of a big role in that. As I was doing my homework, I understood that you guys were heading off somewhere down the road in your pickup truck probably, and he just sort of said, put your sales hat on, Rachele, because our Chardonnay grapes aren't under contract this year. Is that when sort of the key turned a little bit?
That's kind of, light bulbs always go off at certain moments for people, and, we kind of had that moment when we were driving, and it did. So, for us, Chardonnay, we actually, we grow a number of different varietals, but Chardonnay is one of them, and at the time, sometimes, as some varietals are just, they have enough of them and they don't need any more. So
right.
If you're out of contract, it's a little hard to move your fruit. And
right.
I felt so bad. I know how hard he works for in the vineyards, and I felt like, wow, well, we have to take advantage of this great fruit, and we have to just start bottling it. So, of course, he said, well, that's an entirely different different thing, Rachele. You sure you want to take this on? And I was up for a new challenge and certainly wanted to take advantage of a lot of our own fruit that we produce as well. So
right.
That's kind of how our story began. But ironically, Chardonnay was not our first varietal that we liked, but we, kind of determined it was, more of the heavy oak style that we weren't such fans of. So
mm-hmm.
our first varietal, we thought if we could take that on, then we can kind of conquer the rest that we really do enjoy. And so we kind of master that unoaked Chardonnay style, and since then we actually do a reserve that's a lightly oaked for those fans of both styles of wine. But yeah,
right.
We're having a lot of fun with it.
Well, good. So yeah, there's always going to be, there's always going to be a bit of oakiness left in certain crowds here, especially in California, because a lot of folks, that's sort of their introduction to Chardonnay. But you guys kind of timed it pretty interestingly enough, pretty well, because unoaked Chards, as you obviously know, are not only on the rise and the comeback, but they're really almost more popular and outpacing the oaky sort of version, and there's so many different ways to express the Chardonnay grape when you don't oak it, because one of the things I really enjoy about doing wine tastings with folks is that they always they think they come in to try wine that they like, and I always try to introduce them to things that they've not tried before. And I've done a few Chardonnay tastings where I'll have everybody start off with an unoaked Chardonnay, maybe one from Australia and one from California, just to get their head around the idea of what the berry actually tastes like before it's nuanced with malolactic and oak and all the other stuff. And then you can certainly appreciate an oaked wine, but at least you know sort of where it came from, if you know what I mean.
I definitely do. And you just kind of learn to appreciate the fruit, and as growers, that's just first and foremost is the quality of the fruit that we're using to produce the wine. So, for us, we really want to taste that delicious fruit that's coming through instead of just necessarily the heaviness of an oak barrel, per se. So,
right.
But yeah, we accomplished the unoak, and we kind of moved into a number of different varietals, and
let's
have another unique. Yeah.
Let's remind everybody where you guys are and who you are. This is Intercoastal Wine Company, if I'm not mistaken. Is that is it on the label?
That is correct.
Okay.
Intercoastal Wine Company. Intercoastal Vineyards is my brand.
Right.
And we produce 9 different varietals. So, our area is, we actually are wine grape growers in the Lodi area, as well as Clarksburg, in that region as well. So the theory of our company is really the best regions for the wine in which, or for the wine grapes is where they're grown. So we also do a Napa Valley Cabernet. And so, the theory of our company is just to source the best fruit from the best regions. And we happen to live in one of the best regions in the world. Lodi was recognized in 2015 as Wine Region of the Year. So we were proud to really start our brand from where we live.
Yeah, no, Lodi is an amazing place. I have some really close connections with some wine people down there, and the folks are great. The history of the whole grape growing farming thing down there is amazing, and it's really cool to see Lodi really coming on as I call it the Zen capital of the world, and I don't know if anybody else has ever said that, but but they do grow a lot more. You guys do grow a lot more than just Zen, but I mean, I think Lodi is known prominently for their Zinfandel. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. We do not currently do a Zen. We do a Petite Syrah, which we're also known for in this region. So we were happy to take a 93 points recently at the California State Fair this year with that.
Nice.
And so just kind of growing our portfolio, but yeah.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of Zins out there. I'm not saying you need to, just because you're in Lodi, you don't have to grow Zin. In fact, I'm asked a lot, whether I'm in a retail setting or at a wine tasting, Mike, what's your favorite wine? And do you get that? Do people ask you?
I get that all of the time.
Right.
When we have 9 varietals in front of people with a tasting, because I don't have a tasting room, we actually use pop-up events and different events for our tasting room. So we literally bring most of what we produce to every tasting.
Right.
And I'll have 9 varietals in front of me, and people will ask, what's your favorite?
Right.
It's honestly really difficult. I nearly can't answer it because it really depends on what I'm eating. We're big into wine pairing and the time of the day or my mood.
Right.
My mood.
Right. I usually try to come up with the smart ass answer, which is, whatever's in my glass at the time is my favorite.
Exactly.
Because, one of the things I constantly tell people is, and you may do this in your tasting room as well. You want people to like what they like in their own natural way. And if they don't care for a particular thing, then you don't want them to sit there and suffer through it. So I encourage people, dump it out and move on. Let's just, life's too short for bad wine. And it isn't that it's bad wine. It's just that your taste buds may not be acclimated for that particular flavor. So you want to move on. But, the what's your favorite thing. But just between you and me, and if nobody's out there listening right now, I would say that my favorite red wine is Petite Syrah.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Then I have to bring you my bottle of, my 2015 Petite Syrah is one of the most delicious bottles. I will definitely need to get you a bottle of that. So
that sounds good.
It's coming your way.
Very good. Very good. Well, so tell us a little bit now. So you're in the Intercoastal is a little bit, I wouldn't say confusing, because if anybody knows the waterways around the Delta region, you know that there's all these interesting inlets and I have a motorcycle and I ride around a lot of times out there in that Delta area and on those levees and stuff. And it's really cool. You're S-turning all over the place. Isn't that kind of part of the inspiration for your logo as well, besides your name?
It was. It is. And, you know, my husband, a lot of our property is out in the Grand Island area, out, you know, by the Delta, where our vineyards actually, it does have that kind of winding S around one of our vineyards. And it did inspire our logo. We wanted something really simple, but also something that can artistically be interpreted. So the design also is an S kind of a design, which stands for our last name, Spaletta. So it kind of takes on both different, you know, kind of approaches, but it did inspire us for that. And it was just the waterways leading to the ocean. You know, anything that's not on the ocean is intercoastal. So
that's right.
For us, you know, in the area that we are located, a lot of our vineyards, they're actually in an area called District 17, which is being enveloped into the Clarksburg AVA. It should be done this next year. But, you know, because we didn't have a specific area, my husband was like, well, it's really intercoastal. And we fell in love with the name because of, you know, we both love the ocean. We both love where we are, where we live. But we fell in love with it and it made sense for us and we liked it with the logo. So it just fit.
Yeah, it's a great logo, by the way. If you guys want to check it out, join us online. It's intercoastalwine.com. And you can see a great picture of Rachele and Mitch there with a bunch of dogs out in the vineyard enjoying life in Lodi. Well, listen, Rachele, stick around. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the actual wines and some things like that. But we're listening to The Good Life Show. I'm Mike Rayford. We're speaking with Rachele Spaletta from Intercoastal Wine Company. We'll be right back. And we're back having a couple little technical issues, but no big deal. This is Mike Rayford. You're listening to In Search of the Good Life Show. We're here every Saturday from 2 to 4, depending on where you are in the world. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but you can check out the show anytime on MikeTheWineGuy.com. It's streaming live right now, and it does every Saturday at this time. But if you happen to miss it or you miss part of it and you want to catch up on it later, you can always just go there and check it out because we run each show each week for the whole week until we get a new fresh show and put it up there. But our next guest, or our guest that we're talking with right now, Rachele Spaletta from Intercoastal Wine Company, you'll be able to catch her interview on an archive and a podcast. We'll just check it out there on MikeTheWineGuy.com. So, Rachele, we were talking about, besides Petite Sirah, let us know what some of the other varietals that you guys got going out there. You had 9?
So we do. We produce 9 different varietals. 5 of the varietals are from Lodi, but the balance of those come from Napa Valley as well as the Clarksburg AVA. So one that we can highlight today, too, is the Rosé of Pinotage. Which we are the only growers in the United States that do a rosé made with a Pinotage grape. It's usually, I'm sure you know, only usually found in South Africa.
Right.
Some good friends of ours actually grow that particular grape. So we decided to make a rosé from it, and it turned out to be really unique and delicious, and definitely one of the fan favorites for our followers. So the Rosé of Pinotage one to try out. So the other varietals we do is Verdelho. We have an Albarino. The Albarino.
That's one of my favorite whites. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Well, I love Pinot Grigios in the summertime, but when you're trying to sort of try things around that zone, and Albarino, Verdelho, Greco's another one. The light whites with nice acidity to them, they're just really good. So. And that's a good deal. Yeah.
Exactly our style. The others, most of our reds and other varietals that are, grow in the cooler area, comes from our vineyards out in the Clarksburg area. So we have a proprietary red blend, that's really unique as well with Nebbiolo, Aglianico, a Petite Sirah and Malbec blend. That's really delicious. And, our Pinot Noir, 2016 Pinot Noir is definitely one not to miss as well.
Now, tell me, where do you grow Pinot down there in Clarksburg?
We do.
Wow.
We do. On the Grand Island piece, there we have that right along the river. So it is, a delicious, one of my favorite bottles right now. It's a medium to full-bodied Pinot Noir, so it's really just soft and structured with chewy kind of texture and balanced acidity. It's just for me, it's I don't know. It's like we go back to what's your favorite, Rachele, and
right.
I could probably go on and on each one, but definitely love my Pinot Noir.
Right, I'm a Pinot fan too. I probably have Pinot once or twice a week for sure because it's just my go-to red. As the season is going to be changing now, as we're starting to notice the change, I'll probably go into some of the heavier reds, but I've always been a Pinot fan. But you just mentioned something about your specific Pinot. I would say back in the day, whenever that was, there was sort of, if people were let's just say 10 or more years ago, if you brought up Pinot, it sort of almost was, it was so obscure at the time, I think, that people thought, well, it has to fit these certain classic characteristics or else it's just not worthy, which is totally BS because if you think of the classic description 10 or 20 years ago, it's very light, it's very medium, it's very light bodied, maybe to medium. It's very floral. It's just, low acidity and all that. But, I met a guy, a winemaker up in Lake County, and he makes a Pinot, and he calls it the red flannel, Pinot, because it's sort of like a little bit more muscular and it's a little bit just more rural, if you will. And you know what? I started really getting into looking for those kind of Pinots. And it sounds like yours might be a little bit in that realm. It's a little bit darker, a little bit more full-bodied.
It is. It has more of your warm, earthy kind of aromas to it, and again, we go back to farming and, it's just, we're just one with the soil feeling. So, when I'm tasting my wines, I'm really tasting the region in which every wine comes from, whether it's ours or anyone else's, really. But we produce all of our wines in Napa. Our winemaker, Eric Lyman, is in Napa, and his Pinot is kind of his jam. So that's it's really interesting, but it's special as well because as the farmer, we're really working closely with the winemaker, and my husband Mitch gets he and Eric are kind of one. So they work so well together, and I think that's really what's making our wine so spectacular.
That's really good. That's a great way of describing it because there's two separate things. It's kind of like a drummer and a bass player. They have to play well together in the band, but they each have separate disciplines. But the farmer has the very, very important job of producing the ultimate fruit, and then the winemaker, it's his job to sort of interpret it in a way that is pleasing to everybody. I'm on your site, and I noticed that you guys have a Verdelho as well. That's another one of my favorite whites. That's a real herbaceous kind of a white, isn't it?
I'm hitting all your favorites.
Yep.
Sounds like.
Yep.
It is. Love the Verdelho. It just has a nice, bright, clean pop of grapefruit on the finish for me. So, it's light for just beautiful, pairs really, really well. It's got more of like a ripe apricot, cold nectarine, and, just that bright, clean finish to it. So, if you like Verdelhos, definitely give our 2017 Verdelho a try. And we package everything. I call it my yellow Verdelho. All of our whites, we actually utilize a capsule. So it's nice. It's got a nice, bright pop of yellow. And, the rest of the varietals kind of go in suit. So Albarino with your orange, nice pop of orange, and so
the Sauv Blanc is obviously green for the grassiness,
my
right?
My Sauv Blanc is green, but my Rosé of Pinotage is it's a unique varietal. So it's got a white, clean pop, on the top, but with a silver accent. So, and then all of my reds, everything that we do is screen printed. So, we're really particular about making sure that the bottles are polished, everything looks really clean. And for the whites, when they go into ice buckets, you don't have labels that are lifting, so it makes a great bottle for a party. You don't have, any label contention. So it's fun.
It is, and it looks, it's really well done. Compliments to you guys because, it's just a very high-end looking wine. It looks really great. I can't wait to start tasting some. But wanted to also remind people, where can they get it? Are you a wine club only kind of a place so far?
So we are strictly online, so they can find us on intercoastalwine.com, And best to follow us on Instagram. I do the most through the Instagram platform and Facebook, but at Intercoastal Vineyards through social media. Wine tastings for us are through pop-up events. And so our followers, follow us on Instagram. They follow where we will be next pouring our wines and come for the tastings. We're passionate about, our slogan, embrace every moment, which we've trademarked to our brand.
Yeah.
And with that, we really like to embrace time with our members and with those who follow us. So, it's just, it's a fun way to taste it. But for us, we're just trying to keep wine relevant. We're trying to keep the brand relevant and making sure that, if every year we might even be doing something different. We're going to be, releasing a Chenin Blanc, in 2000, this next vintage that's coming up.
Cool.
So 2018. So lots of changing varietals. We're trying to stay fun and fresh and, doing pop-up events that are fun. We just got done doing a yacht cruise in the San Francisco Bay. We, had a great turnout. We had a, cruise around the bay.
You're going to have
wine and had some great appetizers.
You're going to have to invite me on the next one because I'm a sailor. So, and I lived in the Bay Area, but I've literally sailed all around the place. So,
awesome.
Well, you have to hook me up on the next boat trip. That would be fun.
Definitely send you an invitation.
Okay.
Nope, absolutely.
Well, listen, it's been a blast talking to you, Rachele. I do have one more question though, and I'm just intrigued by the Pinotage aspect because Pinotage has such an interesting story that we just don't have time to go into, but it's from South Africa. A guy cloned a couple different things and crossed a couple different things, and it was really specifically made for that region, and it's a very distinctive red wine. But you don't have a Pinotage red, and you chose to do a Pinotage rosé. I don't know, give us a little tidbit and tease us into why we want to come and get one. What is the deal with the Pinotage rosé? How did you get inspired to do that, or did Eric?
It was really my husband's inspiration. So, he's a big food guy. He's a great chef. He tells me not to say that all the time, but the truth is, he's an amazing farmer, but he's an amazing chef.
I'm coming over for dinner.
His idea.
I'm coming over for dinner.
You're invited. Come over tonight. We're having a lasagna. I'll probably pair that with my proprietary red blend tonight, or maybe the petite. You never know.
Never know. Good deal.
We got a good selection, but I wanted to let you know too. We're going to be at the San Francisco Vintners Market the 17th and 18th.
Perfect.
So anyone that's in the Bay Area, if they want to come taste our wines, we'll be there on the 17th and 18th.
Perfect. Well, great time.
San Francisco.
Great timing. We're going to roll out, but Rachele, thank you so much for joining us today. IntercoastalWines.com, guys. Check it out, and we'll catch you next week. You bet. We'll see you soon, Rachele.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right, everybody. Have a great week, and I'm Mike, and we're out. Ciao. And we're out. Ciao. And we're out. Ciao. And we're